For more on this, I'm joined in the studio here by the Global Affairs analyst Marco Vicenzino. Good afternoon to you, Marco. An historic turning point then, or hyped up hyperbole, as some were saying.
Pessimists, optimists, and realists.
Yeah.
The pessimists are those on the cutting edge of research and science and technology. Many of them are very much, angry. I say angry, but disappointed that it didn't go far enough. The core elements are not legally binding. The optimists, I think, have their expectations a bit too high that it's going to change everything. I tend to take more of the realistic approach. Getting 195 nations, or near 195 nations, to sign a single document is an achievement in and of itself.
Sure.
But these are a set of goals to aspire to. Now, if the major powers, the leading polluters in the world, you have China #1, you also have the US, Japan, Russia, India. If you can get those 5 powers in particular to at least set the standards and the goals and following not probably all, but most of what's expected, they can set the standards high for the others to follow. And then what that will do is that'll set a point of reference to others to live up to. So in my opinion, it's up to the major powers to be able to set the standard for others to follow, to aspire to. And if they don't follow it, shame them into following it. So I think it's a long process. We're talking decades in terms of...
I mean, who's up against it? I mean, I note that folk like Friends of the Earth, I mean, I'm reading an article this morning as well, a guy called Bjorn Lomborg, a very much a leading environmentalist, saying that a £3 trillion bill each year will hardly change a single thing in the view of the likes of him, others, and Friends of the Earth.
These are the pessimists I was describing to you, and they have valid points to be made. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world where everyone can come on the same agenda, because you have a lot of competing interests globally. And the only way that this thing can probably move forward and accelerate the process, the unfortunate reality, is the more natural disasters you have, the more negativity you have, and the more people realize, the more it accelerate. People don't often change by choice. It's often by necessity.
It's interesting as well, climate aid doesn't seem to be what the world's poor actually need or indeed want. They're far more concerned about the likes of education, healthcare, jobs and all the rest of it, and dishing out solar panels to people who have no clean water, no sanitation, who are malnourished and all the rest of it. It's the last thing on their minds.
When I said to you about competing interests or different interests, we can also use the words different priorities. What you described is much of the developing world, places, whether it's in Africa, parts of Latin America, parts of Southeast Asia, parts of India. These are places that you call highly poor, indebted regions. And these regions here, when you speak to many, there's illiteracy. I mean, just the basics in life they don't have. They're struggling to get just the basics. And when you speak to them about this, it doesn't even resonate with them. So the point I'm trying to make here, that's where responsible leadership is required. Particularly responsible leaders of those type of countries and those of the developed world to help them, lead them down that path. It's not going to be an easy process.
And look what, just referring to this, look what Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe said to them. I mean, he was lambasting the West, wasn't he? Declaring that Africa will not cut its carbon emissions. So where do we go from there, if that's his point of view?
I mean, I don't think Mugabe speaks for many countries.
I suppose not.
Maybe perhaps he speaks for Zimbabwe, but I don't think he speaks for many other countries beyond his own. And people would even argue if he actually does speak for Zimbabwe. So, I mean, there are other African leaders I think are more constructive and realize that taking this south, north, east, west approach is simply not going to work. It has to be collaboration and cooperation in a very constructive way.
Marco, thank you very much indeed for that.